Alrighty, Doc here from North America. It is TGIF. It's Friday. Another fun-filled week has passed by. Now let's see what we're doing here. We see what do we see here? We see the Swiss franc against the dollar, and you can see it up on the J4X. You know, you can see it's trying to lift, but it's still red. And you can see right here on our Chicago quant, it is a nice size candle moving up, and there is no red. So we're just getting look a little. Matter of fact, you can see right there the let's widen that just a little bit. Let's highlight that and widen it. You can see we're trying to flirt with the daily buy number too. We're through the zero line. Let's widen it out so we can emphasize that a little bit more for you. See that? It's trying to get through. We'll see. And at the same time, the weekly is still below. Let's move this over, I guess you could say. You know, it's still in a sell from just Friday, you know, last Friday, and you can see it's been in a daily sell for a bunch of days here, like a week and a half, and we are trying to get into the buy here today. We'll see what that means. More than likely, why we start off nowadays with the euro, Swiss dollar Swiss pair trade versus the euro dollar pairs trade is that it kind of emphasizes the action a little bit more on the dollar action. So we're seeing some strength in the dollar and weakness across the other pairs trades, and that's pretty much what is happening. All right, let's see. Let's jump over to the euro because we thought that headline yesterday was really funny. A party for everybody, and you can see here it's trying to move down, just exactly as the Swiss is trying to show us here that the pressure is on the pairs and not the dollar at the moment. Now you can see it's holding up through the daily buy for a second day here. And the weekly has no real interest in going minus. I mean, it's on a downwardly curve. Let's see if we can highlight that a little bit better. There we are. You can see it's on a downwardly curve, but it's well above the time manifold. It's in the plus. You know, there's buyers more than there are sellers. Now they're supposed to spend, what, $500 billion? I think it's $500 billion. 500 and some odd dollars or euros. Either way, it's a lot in euro. And to buy more of the bonds. I saw a stat. I'm not sure. I don't think we talked about it here. It was something like how much they own. And I'll have to go back and hunt it down. It was from 2 days ago. How much the central bank, like there's like no German bonds to be bought, and there's no like Italian bonds to be bought or something like that. In other words, they've been consuming these bonds from the different countries, and so they're just you know, that's stimulus to them, just keeping it fixed in value, not necessarily growing things. So that's the central bank way nowadays. You know, the idea is to have a portfolio. I saw where was it the Bank of Japan has $434 billion. They're the largest stockholder now in Japanese companies. So they have, you know, no fund is bigger than them. Almost $500 billion worth of Japanese stock. Wow. I mean, that's what the central banks do now. They hold, they prop, they support, they make sure that things don't go down too much in value. And when they do, obviously, like some smart central banks, like the Swiss central bank, steps up and buys and doubles up and rips a success out of it all. And I guess if you're a central banker, you have to understand if they're going to prop them up, why wouldn't you buy weakness? You know, major weakness. Not necessarily everyday weakness, but just major weakness. Just step up and buy, because I mean, if it doesn't work, then the whole system is gone, right? So it's kind of like that. You know, when you're doing simulated trading, and you know you're trying to pretend that you're going to trade like you're you know, using real money, and then you get into a twist of some form where you're losing, and all of a sudden, instead of trading 2 and 3 lots, next thing you know, you're long a 12 lot, and it's all fake money anyway. So what's the difference? You know, and that's exactly what the central banks do, and that's what's so brilliant about the Swiss National Bank in particular, is at least they recognize it. I guess it's like the banking in their blood. They know a good deal from a bad deal. And if the rest of the central banks across the planet are purchasing, then, or at least holding stable prices, then why wouldn't you buy in a calamity? So that is what it is. All right, traders, and so there is the euro right here. Just trying to dip down a little bit, but nothing major. I guess that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's higher than the beginning of the week. You know, it's moving up and playing with the highs of the week. Now let's drift over to cable, and we can put in here too, just on J4X. Let's take a peek what it looks like. There it is, the euro. See what the white line is doing. See if it's starting to curve like, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see it kind of trying to make the curve. Now that's interesting. Look at that. It hasn't made it through there. That's curious. So it hasn't said, you know, strength is coming. I mean, it's telling you it's turning, that's for sure, but it hasn't made it through the dotted line here. You know, the goldish dotted line, and the dashed lines is buried too. So it makes me wonder if they're going to start selling this again. All right, let's take a look at cable. Cable closed in a sell right there. And you can see it's pressing down. And let's find it over here, right there. Pressing down hard. Look at that. And you can see the same thing here. It's been through this dashed line, you know, the dotted line right there. And the white line is, and it's been falling and rolling over. Now you've got the dashed line, the purple dashes, finding their way to press it down towards the lows. So dollars are being bought. And it is systemic. All right, now we're going to go over and take a look at Turkish Lira. It's a quiet morning. No one's even saying hi. Hi, 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 hi. Let's see. There is Turkish Lira with the euro. We've started watching both of those now. It's kind of entertaining. So it's going on a third day here with the euro against the Turkish Lira. Hugging the time manifold, so obviously not that bearish, but it did have a nice pop today. And then let's take a look at it against the dollar Turkish Lira. Right there. Did the same thing. And it's just a day more on the buy. And the white line is heading back up towards the time manifold there also. So what we're seeing is the Turkish Lira is just drifting on the upside. And all that political noise could have been more of just profit taking. And so they just thought, okay, you know, they changed the finance minister and they changed the sovereign fund manager, which is the same person. So I guess they figured, okay, let's take some profits. And that's what they did. They took profits, and now they don't know what to do with this currency. They're just sitting there looking at it and going, okay, now what do we do? Is it going to 9? You know, it's going to 8.5 again. You know, what's the malfunction? You know, what's next? And unfortunately, that is what it is. All right, and let's take a look at it over here on J4X. See if we garner any particular insight to it. There's the dollar one. Let's take a look at that. Just down a little bit. And you can see it is showing strength here on J4X. And the real power is really kicking out with the CCI. You know, leaping well off of all of it. See how it I was kind of curious how it comes down, plays this area here, hits the dotted golden line, dotted gold, I guess you call it, or yellow, and starts to rocket right off of it. And now we've got the white line piercing it too. So they're obviously trying to find a way to take it up. They're just not sure where to take it to. All right. Let's head over to Canada. Yeah, moving down. As you can see on the spreadsheet, we're just 1 day in a sell and 3 weeks in a sell. And so the pressure is on there. just as well today as it was yesterday when it went back into the sell. See what they're doing to it. It's popping up. We got a red dot, but it's popping up. And you can see here the white line is pierced also through, trying to get going even stronger. We're seeing a stronger move on the J4X side of it. Just that the Hinky Ashi are making it look more dire than it is. Whereas over here you can see it is popping up and trying to get a little life into it. I don't see it getting into the daily. The weekly doesn't look like it wants to change any unless they really take off up into this area here, but I don't think we're going to see that. We'll just see. Oh, there we go. What do we got here? CZ, good morning to you. How are you? What's my buy level on CAD? Well, right now we're in the short side of it, because we're in a weekly sell and a daily sell, so we don't have a buy yet. We have to wait for the math to turn. So we'll just keep on watching it until our numbers turn, and then we'll have a number for you. Let's see. I took profits on my crude oil long yesterday. Maybe take a look at it long with the silver. Thanks. Sure. No problem, Middle Age. Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on we always watch the Canadian. Matter of fact, we have somebody that just started subscribing that are going to be getting Canadian today, so we're going to be watching it a little bit even closer. So, yeah, right now, no buy. It's in a sell. That's what that's all about. Let me just do this. This is the Canadian here. See, we went into the sell here. We've been in a daily sell. We went into a buy there, and we fell right back into the sell there yesterday. We need to put that in there like that. There we are. And so it's very firm today and moving up. And we'll see if that survives or it rolls back over again. How's that, CZ? We'll keep an eye on that for you. Now let's drift over to, was it crude oil? There's crude. Crude's being a little sloppy, but at the top end of its range. And you can see what are we doing here? We're through the daily sell for sure today. So we're going to put a little red thing in there and then see if it holds up. Good smart move to take that profit. Let's see, like that, like that, like that. There we go. So it's flirting with the daily sell. It's through the zero line. I'm not sure what this was all about. It was a plus, and that's why we didn't change it before. You can see we're still at 7 days in a buy. And this is just data that came in late at night. I know that I should try to do something with it. And then we had the red and green. If it had given us a direction, I would have. And now, for sure, it's trying to pressure it down with no problem at all. So, all right. And at the same time, let's do that. We'll just save it since we're right here with it. Like that. There we go. Now, let's take a look at silver right there. There's March silver. March silver closed into the daily sell yesterday. Let's refresh that. You can see the weekly is battling hard today to try to not fall into the weekly sell. There's definitely going to be some pressure going into Monday, that's for sure. Let's see, let's grab that and there, and then do the silver. There we go. So there's the two there. It went into the buy and we got the weekly buy and we thought maybe they would carry it up to this area here to 26 or so, but it's just rolling over on us. Let's see if we get this stays in a weekly buy, and let's see if we get back into a daily buy by the end of today, or going in on Monday. But I doubt it because I think this will start pressuring this into the weekly sell, and I don't know. We'll see. It had that look like it wanted to take off, but it just has found a way to go sideways again. All right, there's Nasdaq too. Nasdaq is being sold down compared to yesterday, though. It's trapped more in the range and an inside range right there. So let's refresh that since we were right there, just for the good sake of doing that. And you can see this is not in a weekly sell yet, but it's been in a daily sell for a few days and has gone pretty much nowhere. Let's see, and let's just save that. All right, now we can drift back to, where were we on the currencies? We were looking at CAD, that's right. So now we'll take a look at the, normally what we do is CAD is trying to go up, And I guess that's why oil is kind of stuck in a neutral. And then what we do is we take a look at the NASCAD right there. This probably is going to be it's trying to go up. So maybe, I don't know, but then look at it. It's trying. It's got the price. It's appreciated, but we're still stuck in that daily sell by the hair of its chinny chin, and stuck in a weekly buy. So it's a neutral at the moment. You can't be short. It's just telling you not to be long. Let's see if this can get into a buy and get moving back up again here. And the oil market seems to be confirming that there's strength out there. Hooray. Anybody want to see anything else particular? Or if not, we will drift over to. From there, we usually do is we drift. Let me just take a look at yen real quick. Yen is kind of okay. So yen is threat. Looks like it's going to close in the weekly buy with no problem right there. And at the same time, our daily sell. Let's see, where did we go in the sell? This thing is so tight. There's a sell right there. And then, let's see, that is not a buy because it was a red and a green. And then that was a red and green, so it's not a buy. We're still in a sell from here. Let me put that sell in there. And then we can, I guess, could that get into a buy? I guess that was the buy right there. And that was the sell right there. What a tight action is going on there. Let's change those colors so you can appreciate it just a little bit more. So there's a sell, and then now that's a sell, and we're still stuck in that sell, I think. Yeah, we're still stuck in that sell. And you can see where we got into the sell is here. We're pretty much almost at the same price target. Let's see if they, but this here has my eye and the idea that after all those weeks, it's finally trying to get into that weekly buy. Huh, interesting. All right, now what we'll do is we go over to the commodities. We look at gold and silver and so forth, and which we just did. But we didn't look at gold, so we'll take a look at gold. And we look at oil, and we just looked at oil because usually NASCAD and the Canadian against the dollar is a good tool to understanding where the oil market is headed or is at. And so that's usually why we lean into that. What do you expect from the dollar in 2021? To depreciate? You know, that's a good question. And I keep on, I think for months upon months we've talked about it, we kind of think it's going to go sideways. You know, I think that they're going to put a little pressure on it, nothing major. You know, it's still pretty expensive. I think we're in the 90s or something like that. It's still kind of, it's an expensive product, but it's one of the only places it's giving a return on money. And so there's a demand constantly to buy the dollar so they can buy the bonds and get an actual return on money. So I have to say that I expect it to be sloppy sideways throughout the year, and I would think there'll be more positive pops on the upside than negative pops on the downside. I think that's how that plays out. We'll see how that goes if it matches up, but I think that's how it's going to play. So in other words, I think it's going to be somewhat of a nothing year, but with some more exciting moves on the upside than downside. How does that sound? Does that make any sense to you? And I think that's how the math is trying to point to me and the politics and all that stuff. That's how I see that. All right, now we go over to, let's see, where's that? So we'll go over to, let's take a look at gold. Oh no, there's the oil. We did that. There's gold right there. And gold, look at that weekly. Is that crazy or what? When's the last time it flatlined like that on the zero line? There, okay, here we go. Almost flatlined on it for a couple weeks and back in April in the middle of the big move up. Interesting. All right. So, are we going to make it into the weekly sell this week? It looks very close. Look at it. It's just hanging on by the thread. It's going to be a very interesting product by the end of the day to try to figure out where this all plays out. If it gets back into a daily buy, more than likely the pressure will be on the upside. Strange action in the gold market. All right. Natural gas. We were looking at crude oil, and crude oil is firm at the top end of its range. CEZ says, with all banks printing money, and I am lost which country is actually in a better condition right now. Yeah, the U.S. is in the best of positions, but they really don't print money. What they seem to be doing is a line item Excel sheet type of thing. So in other words, the old-fashioned stimulus would be printing money, and they would print so much money that the banks would have to lend it to people that are lower in caliber of profit return or less assets to back it up, because they were printing so much money they had to throw it in every direction. Well, they're not really doing that. What they're doing is they're doing line items instead. And so what they do is they say, okay, we just generated like $1 billion, and we're going to buy $1 billion worth of bonds now. And they buy the bonds and they park them on a portfolio. And so how does that help the local business or the local family? How does that really help them? Well, if they own those bonds in their IRA, it helps them. Their assets are not dropping. Let's see, what else can I say about it? But are they really taking that money and like old days of printing and lending it to lower, more risk-averse borrowers? Is that a tanglement of words? More risk borrowers. They're not doing that. And so before, when they printed the money, they were hoping it would get into the system somehow. In other words, okay, they're investing in some type of business, and they're going to be buying this and that, and it's going to create jobs and so forth. We're not really seeing that. That's not exactly the way they do it. It's more of like a stabilizing factor. So it's a little bit different. Yes, exactly. It helps the stocks rising, right? Exactly. And it helps interest rates to stay low. And so there's a stability. And they're trying to build a confidence, but there's such an amount of money on the sidelines that's not invested. And so obviously, when it comes to building the confidence, it's only the last resort. In other words, the funds are willing to buy. They're not really stepping up and saying, okay, we're just going to buy. Matter of fact, I just saw somebody come out and say they bought $10 million worth of Bitcoin, or 20 million or something like that, right around there. And so, they're really happy with, it's a fund. We're seeing more funds step up and buy the Bitcoin, the cryptos in general. And so that's pretty much the process of it all in the end, is that we're watching these things, kind of play themselves out. And, and so it's not like the old-fashioned, let's load up the boat and, and they're going to lend it to anybody and anyone that walks through the door. It's kind of like the opposite. They're just not, it's just turned into a craziness in a sense of it's not really printing money. They're firming up everything. It's really weird, So, when we saw the portfolio last year of the Swiss National, or not, it was last year, at the beginning of the year, the Swiss National Bank had stepped up in February and March and bought those lows with something like $12 billion, I think they printed. They printed $12 billion, and they stepped up and they bought like $3 billion worth of Apple stock down at the lows. They bought $3 billion worth of Amazon down at the lows. They bought like $2 billion worth of Facebook down at the lows. That type of thing. They stepped up and bought. I published it. I put it up on the screen here because the Swiss National Bank actually, published what they had done. Someone was doing research on it and how smart they have made, with their decision-making process. And so, it was interesting to see a central bank step up like that, and which makes sense. I mean, what other choice do they really have when you really think about it? I mean, you're already invested, so why not buy more? You can just pull it out of thin air. I mean, if it doesn't work, well, oh well, everybody's going down with the ship. I mean, it's pretty much the way it goes. All right, so that's natural gas. Did I refresh that? we saw crude oil being firm. You can see this stuff is being firm also. But we're getting that volatility dot. See that there? But we're already in a daily buy, so that's kind of interesting. Now, wait a second. That is underneath. What is that? I hate that. It was in a buy last night. God, it drives me crazy. Let me go and look at it here. I'm seeing we can put it up. I just have to double check this. I just cannot take this. This drives me crazy. We always have a couple items every day that does this. They changed all the data in it overnight. It's irritating as all get out. Let's see, where is it at? Right there it is, natural gas. There you go, you can see. Now wait a minute, the dot is red. How did we get it into the buy? That's curious. Yeah, I guess it was a plus when I put it in there, but we didn't have a red dot, we had a green dot. God, it'll drive you crazy. Alright, so I guess what we have to do is we have to move this now over to here. And it actually belongs up top there. So let's remove it all together, since that's where the potential buy is today when it gets going. Is that right? No, okay. So it's just doing it there, right? So it's still not into a buy. Where do we have it on this fact check spreadsheet? Oh, we don't follow it on a day-to-day basis. Just 10 weeks in a sell. So, wow, this changing of the data at night drives me just totally bonkers. All right, let's go. Okay, so now we'll save it like that. There we go. And so then this one was interesting, is that the Russell, which is very strong, you know, they're reaching for those Russell stocks. Let's see, Japan Central Bank, biggest holder. Yeah, I published that. Isn't that something? We talked about that a little while ago. Let's see. All this nonsense has to end someday, I guess. You know, the central, you know, it's political. It's more political than it's ever been before. You know. Hey FX, how you doing? I hear you, CZ. I do, and I agree. I mean, I really do. You know, you have to wonder, but I think it's going to go on for decades. That's the scary part. It's going to go on for decades. We're not going to see it in our lifetime, I don't think. I really don't. We'll see. But more than likely, was it Ben Bernanke, when he was Fed chairman, it was his last year, and he was testifying in front of Congress, and he said he didn't expect to see 3%. I think it was 10-year or 30-year. It might have been 30-year. He didn't expect to see beyond 3 to 3.5% on 30-year in his lifetime. Now he was 60. I want to say he was 64 or something like that years old. So, you know, what's he thinking? 25, 30 years? You know, he lives to 90 to 95, 85, 95. So he was telling us that in his lifetime, we're not going to see 3 to 3.5% 30-year bonds. And that means that there's a policy up there, you know, in all these central banks across the planet. And that policy is the whole thing's stable. So I hear you. And it makes sense what you say. You know, it has to stop sooner or later. But I don't think it's going to happen in this lifetime. I really don't. I think it may be 40, 50 years from now. You know, it just doesn't have that feel like it's going to happen now. So, and that's really what we have going on here, which is very curious, you know, because it's not old-fashioned banking. That's the problem. It definitely is not old-fashioned banking. You know, so when you say, okay, you know, they're printing money, they're not really printing money, and they're not throwing it against the wall hoping that somebody will take it. Instead, they're printing them. They're creating a line item with money borrowed to go out and buy, you know, stocks and you know bonds and equities and so forth, and firming it all up. I mean, that is the game, and that is really wild. I mean, it is truly wild. Let's see here. There's Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency, right there, playing with the weekly sell, right there. let's see. I hear you. Better not try to predict the end of the bubble. Yeah, yeah. We just follow the math, but we know one thing for sure: they are not lending money the way they used to. It's just not happening. They're not making new businesses from it. They're stabilizing economies and forcing the investors to do that investing, and that does seem to be part of their recipe. Is that if you've noticed, what they do is they're basically how everybody says, okay, the wealthy are getting wealthier. They are, and they're also being forced to have to invest that money, do something with it, and that is the whole process that seems to be going on, is that they're forcing them to be investors more. I mean, that's the way I see it, and with it, that's the only way that the money is being lent, is because it's filtering through the system. I guess, in some intellectual way, that sounds like a Bernanke move. In other words, don't trust the bankers. Instead, people who have earned the money, through investment and so forth, are now lenders on some level, and hopefully they will lend in a very intelligent way and try to get a return on it. And that seems to be the, oh, look at that, it went into a buy, and now it's flirting with a sell. There we are. So that, it makes sense. There's no doubt about it. It makes sense. I totally understand the whole concept. It makes total sense to me. So, and that would be Bernanke. In other words, he would want more responsible individuals lending money than just the bank blindly lending money. It benefits the central banks too. Props up everything. In the end result, they're all propped up. And so that's the objective to begin with. They don't want to see mutual funds falling any more than they've already fallen. We talked about this a couple of days ago. The whole idea is that a lot of these mutual funds, the IRAs and all like that, there's a lot of retirees depending on those things, and they don't want those things to go down in value. And so they're, doing conducive things to keep them up, keep them fixed. And so that's really what it comes down to in the end. That game goes on and on and on and on, and then it takes, in some ways, it takes it out of the hands of the banks, the central banks, to decide if it's a good investment or not, because they're trying to force money that's out there to go invest in it, and so they're hoping that there's some responsibility, some level of responsibility, and it seems like it is there. So we're not seeing the inflation, and that's a big factor right there. The inflation factor seems to have evaporated, and so that's it does sound like Bernanke. I mean, he's not really big on the helicopter money where you just throw it out the door and then write it off and say, oh well, that's okay. People, it helped power the economy. That type of thing. He doesn't take that cavalier point of view, which is really nice. So. All right, I saved all those commodities. If anybody wants to see anything particular in the commodities, let us know. We will show it to you. And then there's the grains. Wheat is really popping up. It's threatening to go into a weekly buy. Isn't that amazing? Let's see. Let's see. CZ says, what do you think of the digital yuan? Well, we talk about this. The Chinese yuan, trades about 1% in the world. That's it. It's awful hard to understand how such a large economy only trades 1% in world markets. In other words, people are not really buying the thing. So obviously there's a mechanical problem there. As much as they're supposedly the second largest economy or third largest economy, or however you want to measure it, something's wrong there, and money knows there's something wrong. So that's what I think about the digital yuan. I'd imagine that it might do better than the cash yuan, because digital is in right now. Is that a tool that will allow central banks to create inflation? What's that? The lending or the digital yuan? The objective is they had a deeper objective of wanting inflation. That was they were hoping for it. They were trying to follow the old rules. I'm not totally convinced that the old rules hold any values to them anymore. And Janos has done these things on fundamentals for Dukascopy, their head analyst, and fundamentals don't trade like they used to, and they don't have as much. I mean, there's a validity to them, of course, but there's something less important about them compared to what they used to be, and that's probably the thing that makes it really weird out of it all, is that inflation factor, the growth doesn't seem to be there. It's just not there. We're not seeing it, and because we're not seeing it, we're not feeling it, and that's that classic, saying about guns or butter, when in fact it's guns and butter nowadays because of so much equity out there. And so that's where we're at with this. Let's see. That's cattle right there. Now let's see what CZ says. Let's see. Is this a tool that will allow central banks to create inflation? So with the digital yuan, yeah. I don't know. I don't understand the Chinese decision-making process. It's all based off of a communist foundation. So I'm not really sure. I know they want to be in power. What's the key to all communists? They want to be in power. They don't care how. They just want to be in power. And so creating a digital yuan. Remember they talked about this 2 years ago? They were going to create a digital yuan with gold and oil as a deliverable. Notice that disappeared altogether. So, they talked about it. It was published all over the place. They were going to do this. They were going to create a digital yuan, and it was backed by gold and oil, and you could exercise it and so forth. And so, when they say they're doing something, doesn't mean they're doing something. They're just talking. I read they made a lottery, gave the winners a certain amount of money to spend. Yeah, they're trying to perk their economy up. That's for sure. What if they give all people $100 to spend? Well, that's what they're trying to do. In China, again, everything is based off of a communist foundation. So anything they say they're going to do or they're attempting to do, it's always a little confusing. There's a lot of confusing, actually. All they want is power and control. I mean, it's not exactly a recipe for investing. It's like, okay, I'm going to buy into that because they want power and control. Someone will drop a bomb on them after a while if they get too aggressive. So it's not a good recipe to think, oh, I think I'll invest in them because they want power and control. I don't think that's the answer to the investment situation there. Let's see what's going on there. So, okay, so we're going to put a red one in here like that. Yeah, that is when you try to figure out what the Chinese are doing, the answer mainly is wait till it happens. Don't the old classic Wall Street opinion of buy on rumor, sell on news. I'm not sure if you want to buy on rumor when the Chinese say something. It could be a dead end because they don't follow through. All those things they said they were going to do has not happened, not even remotely. So I'm a real big fan of retaining information on what is said and then go back and look and see if it actually happens. And that's why we have the fact checks, spreadsheet here showing you our math, what it's doing all the time. There's the physical proof of its action and success or failure, constantly reinforcing that. So I'm not a real big fan of trusting anything, Peking or Beijing or whatever they want to call it, is doing, because they haven't really done it. I haven't seen it, all throughout the last decade. they keep on saying they're going to do something and they don't do it. So it kind of, to speculate on it, it's not like it'd be one thing if you're buying a stock in a healthy economy, or a strong economy, or any type of economy, and then the company, that company of that stock, or the company itself, puts out stories, and people buy on rumor, and then hope to sell when it actually comes to fruition. Well, when it comes to, did I see Dalio? Yeah, he's a little goofy, isn't he? I wonder if let's see, that's Ray, right? And that's let me just that's the fund up in North Jersey, Bridgewater, right? He's a little wacko. Let me just double check. I think that's Bridgewater, right? Is that Bridgewater? American Billionaire. Let's see which fund is his. Is that Bridgewater? Let me just double check it. Because if it's Bridgewater, Dalio is kind of wacko in the head. A friend of mine had a treasurer, and see, it doesn't say his fund. Yeah, Bridgewater. That's Bridgewater. Okay, yeah, he's a wacko. And so he hired her, and she was like one of the highest paid CFOs. And she was there for a long while, like 8 or 9 years, getting paid like 10, $15 million a year. And she quit on him last year. She said she just couldn't take it. He's just too much of a kook. And so didn't he take a big hit too? He kept on telling us all to be short the market, and the market collapsed and he lost money. So he was telling everybody to be short, but he wasn't short. So, I mean, he's a weird one. Let's see. I wonder if other central banks follow them. Let's see. Ray Dalio is saying China is next superpower. Ray Dalio is not as sure what state he lives in on a given day. He's a whack job. He doesn't make any sense at all. He seems to be. We used to have people we would fade, on the trading floors. In other words, if someone said, "Oh, I'm going to go do this," we automatically took the opposite side in a heartbeat. And I'm not sure if you can do that with him, but I just know that he has not lived up to what he says all the time, and that's what's let's put it this way: he doesn't have a fact check spreadsheet when he talks. He won't do that. He'll just talk his gobbledygook, and the next thing you know is that it doesn't happen. And the same thing with the Chinese. They say stuff all the time, and nothing has happened. I don't see anything happening. I guess the closest thing of them doing anything that's been efficient has been the Silk Road, right? They're really fighting hard to get the Silk Road running. They're trying to, and that would be like they want to sell. They're like a fast food franchise, China. They're trying to sell things, and they want you to come and buy them. And if you don't come and buy them, then they get a little antsy, But that's the only way I look at China. I mean, I don't take them too serious. Because they don't, again, all the things they've said over the last 10 or 12 years has not happened, not even close. The closest I can say that has happened is the Silk Road. They have been pressing very hard to get it on track. So, does that make sense to you, CZ? In other words, if someone says something, then you can trust it. But if they don't say anything, then you can't really trust it. I mean, that's pretty much the way it goes. Now look at that. There's the wheat again. I'm looking at the red wheat, just holding on really firm. It stayed in the weekly, whereas the Chicago wheat had gone into a sell and is flirting with the buy. Let's see, where's red wheat? You're here somewhere. I know I have you written down somewhere. Where's red wheat? There it is. Red wheat. Minneapolis, Kansas, red wheat. And then there's March soybeans. And you can see they're flirting with their downwardly action. Let's reload that. I'm just looking through and saving stuff. We're all getting a chance to look at this stuff as I do it. Even if I had money, I am not putting them into China. I hear you. I look at China in many ways it's like a colony of America, but we don't own anything there. That's the weird part. They own it all. So, the whole Chinese experience has been very strange. At first we thought that they were talking about becoming a capitalist nation and becoming very solid, economically. And we thought, okay, that could be the replacement for the European Union, in some aspect. But they're not doing that. They're not even remotely doing that. They're becoming more communist every day, and they're just, I guess they're like, what is it like? What do they call it? Crony capitalism. They call it crony capitalism when it's like a fascist or communist state, and they let just their friends have businesses, and then everybody else starves, or doesn't get what needs to be done, one or the other, something of that nature. And so, it's not exactly. We used to call it on the trading floor the cockroach hotel. You can get in, but you can't get out. I mean, that's the big thing right there. Is they're trying to figure out how do you, get out of that situation, and that's the problem. Is that they make it very hard to get out. You can't get your assets out. You're forced to invest in a whole different way than capitalism, suggests. And I saw Goldman Sachs is talking about buying up their whole operation over there, and so they'll have a Goldman Sachs China, office and company, subsidiary that's not related to this Goldman Sachs here in business wise right now, and that's what they're talking about doing is merging it with that situation, which is again shake my head situation. It's not exactly capitalism. It's definitely something else is going on there. Now there's bean oil in March. And you can see it's still holding up firm there, so let's go like that. We'll save that. Let's see, soybean oil March. There we are. So that is, what I see out of China, It kind of reminds me of a colony. But we don't own anything. Oh, you can't underestimate it. I mean, they're pushing hard. They just gave us a cyber Pearl Harbor. They're invested in they're invested in the company that communist company Dominion that's out of Venezuela, and they invested in that. They put like $300 or $400 million into it to take the election here in the United States to try to flip it over to Biden. It's not going to work, but I mean that's how that's playing out. It's some of them around here are starting to call it a cyber Pearl Harbor. So, I mean we're really flirting with the idea of martial law here in the United States and starting the elections over again. I mean the media is not covering any of it. Why they're reporting the Biden news now is kind of confusing altogether. I mean, Camellia and Biden are tied to that laptop, to the son's laptop and the Chinese money. She's involved in it too. So none of it's making any sense anymore. It's like, the rats are jumping off the ship. They know Biden's not going to be president. She won't. Think about this. If they thought that Biden and her were going to be president and vice president, she would have resigned her Senate seat. She hasn't resigned her Senate seat. She's still sitting on the Senate seat. So I mean, how confident is she that they're going to be she'll be the vice president of the United States when she won't even leave her? If she was confident, she wouldn't be senator anymore. They have already nominated a new person. I mean, here we are heading for the middle of December, or we're past the middle of December, and she won't resign her seat. So it's been 5 weeks now since the election, or 6 weeks, and she's still sitting on her senatorial seat. So how confident is she that she's going to be vice president? I say not much at all. Sure says a lot. They know they know Biden's not going to be president. Now, don't ask me why the media is going after Biden and her. I mean, she's tied up with that laptop. All of a sudden, now everybody's paying attention to it? None of this is making any sense. Look, Trump's going to be president in January. And I don't know what's going to happen exactly, how it all plays out. If the courts finally clean this mess up, or the president himself cleans it up by going into martial law and having a new election in those crazy states that broke the law. I mean, it's all confusing at this point. And so, it's turned into a real fiasco at this point, as far as I'm concerned. We'll see what the Supreme Court. They're supposed to make a decision today. So, and it really funny is that 20 states now are suing those 4 states, and the legislatures in those states have joined the lawsuit, but the Secretary of State and the governors are fighting it. So it's you couldn't create this. I mean, you couldn't write this story. This story is so crazy. You couldn't have it's real, and you couldn't have invented this. You couldn't have thought this up. It's so stupid. I don't know. That's a good question. If Biden is president, is the dollar negative? I would think so. I would think that they would be investments would be running away from the United States on some level, whereas I think investors will be running towards the United States with Trump. I would say that's a safe way of interpreting it. But again, we follow the numbers around here, so that would be the only real way for us to, take it that serious. So, let me think. What else is there? Okay, so now, what do we have here? We've looked at all the currencies. Does anybody see a currency that you want to look at? We can go after. We've kind of looked at all the currencies that we usually follow, and then some. So, and we have done lately is we have been looking at that peso. Let's see what the peso is doing this morning. The dollar peso right there, lifting up. It's been in a weekly sell for a while here, since back up in here, and it's been in a daily buy now since yesterday. Right there. That's been interesting to watch. All right. Trying to think what else we have to say about this. Let's go find what's going on with some of these other things in the marketplace. It is Friday. Let's see what the DAX looks like. There's the FTSE right there. FTSE's holding up in a weekly buy. That's the ETF of the FTSE in the United States. So the buyers are cleanly holding on to that. You can see it's drifting up nicely. And excuse me. Let me get a drink of water here. Let's see what I want to take a look and see what the DAX is doing. That's been in a weekly buy also. We keep on hearing that they're going to add 10 more stocks to the DAX. So that could be very interesting. 10 more stocks. Let's see. It's there. Let's go here and find the DAX. There it is right there. It's been one heck of a side. It's been in a daily sell going nowhere, but holding up in a weekly. So that is the action we're seeing, is that, it's just holding firm, going nowhere. I guess it's standing to the side and waiting. Let's see now. What else do we have to say about that? I guess that's about it there. Trying to think. Is there any particular combination that we can look at that would tell us, the way we look at Canadian and oil and, that type of thing? It doesn't seem like there's much really going on. In other words, everything is kind of like on hold. The Supreme Court's got to make a decision. This, that, the other thing. Democrat groups are threatening to be violent. Notice that the true winners, the Republicans, were peaceful throughout this whole thing. No noise, no rioting. Now the Democrats are threatening violence. They're saying that they're armed. Antifa is armed. And they want Trump to resign by Sunday or they're going to get violent. I mean, what a craziness. I mean, you got to really wonder who comes up with these wacko ideas. Let's see. Let's take a look at the stock indices again. You can see here, they're moving down, but they're holding on to their weekly. Now, I think the S&P 500 is flirting. Yeah, see, it's flirting with a weekly sell. And then the Russell 2000 is holding on with no problem. The weakness is just short term. And then the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is right there, you can see is holding up in a. Oh no, it's dropped below the. No, where's the zero line? Now I'm confused altogether. Where's the zero line on this thing? It's a minus. Yeah, so it's below the zero line there. I'm not sure why we're seeing prices of. We're not seeing the indicator prices. We're seeing the price for the futures contract itself, but it's below the zero line. It's minus, and it's also flirting with a weekly sell. Let's do that like that. So we're seeing some cross currents here. Maybe they give us a good rally here later on in the day. It's hard to say. We got 2 out of the 4 indices flirting with weekly sells. And then we look at, like I said, we look at you are all armed in America. Exactly. That's why it doesn't make any sense for them to say what they're saying. None of it makes any sense. It's all crazy. We've got, classic Wall Street. Buy on rumor, sell on news. Well, boy, we're not even getting the rumor. We don't even get the news. I mean, it's all one confused situation. And then all of a sudden the media turns on Biden yesterday. And the Justice Department gets involved out of nowhere. I mean, we've known all this stuff for like 9 months. And they, Twitter and everybody else blocked all the news about it. And all of a sudden, now they're going after Biden and Kamala. The Democrat presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate. The media all of a sudden is going after them. I don't get that. What is that all about? That is crazy. And so an armed, I guess, the Ku Klux Klan is part of the Democrat Party. They have some real violent, when they talk about white supremacy, that's the Democrats, not the Republicans. That's what's so weird about this whole thing. And it always is weird. The media doesn't exactly explain to you what's going on. It's always a confusion. They just don't seem to be able to, explain anything. I don't think they're that bright. They seem to be confused constantly about what the reality is. So when they say white supremacists, people think they're talking about on the right. It's on the right of the Democrat Party. It's not. It's not the Republicans. It's not conservatives. It's all strange. They're all strange. The whole thing is strange. Swiss franc and silver. Oh, I like that. Let's see. Title. I have to come up with a title there. We'll come up with something. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. What could our title be today? I mean, we looked at the stock indices and we talked about the China yuan, but we didn't really look at a chart or anything like that. If we'd looked at a chart, I would have put it in there. Matter of fact, I guess we could go hunt it down real quick. Let's see. I think I changed it too, didn't I? Let me go over. I think we used it yesterday, that chart that we followed the Chinese yuan on. I think, oh no, there it is. There's the Chinese yuan. I mean, it's been in a weekly sell since here. And it's trying to lift up into a daily buy for the last few days. It went into the buy here and then rolled back over in here somewhere. There, I guess right there. And it's not exactly the best of the products. It was in a sell from this one too. So mostly, none of it's making any sense. All right, anyway, this is Doc from North America. Everybody have a safe and a smart weekend. We will catch you on Monday looking at whatever crazies have occurred from the Supreme Court of today. So happy trails to you Until we meet again, which will be Monday. Happy trails to you, to all our trading friends.